Just a quick video on the subject of logical fallacies. And during the time of the nonsense surrounding the Baj, there was a certain bit of rhetoric that would always emerge, and it was something that we heard more generally speaking around the entire time of the nonsense, which of course the time of nonsense hasn't ended, but we've gotten a respite from one particular type of nonsense in any case. But we are still pretty much in the soup right now as far as the age of nonsense goes. But there was this idea that if you didn't do X, that you were hurting others by not doing X. The first thing they tried that with was masks. They were saying if you refused to wear one, that you were killing other people. And with that, the question was never raised. Well, you know, there was never during previous flu seasons, there you know, even virulent flu seasons, there was never a push to make everybody mask up. That was never the case. They never did that. It was only until this particular type of nonsense that suddenly it became crucial for the healthy to wear masks, not to protect themselves, but to protect others. Now, it was only later that they started saying, when they started laying off, they said, oh well, single masking works. You can protect yourself by putting on a mask. But at first they were laying on the guilt trip. And this is the really egregious aspect of this entire op, this effort to lay on the guilt trip, to make you feel like to try to whip up a lynch mob against nonconformists by saying these people are hurting other people. So, you know, it never really made sense, but it wasn't questioned. Putting aside the whole question of the efficacy of wearing pieces of cloth over your face, and the fact that, you know, that viruses are smaller and can get through masks and all of that. Put all of that aside. There was never a flu season where it became incumbent upon anybody to put on a piece of cloth over their face at all times, wherever they went, to protect others. That suddenly became a thing with this particular type of flu. But if it was a thing with that particular type of flu, then it should have been a thing for all the flus before that too, and it never was a thing. It was never pushed. It was never mandated. There wasn't ever this type of psychic trauma that they were trying to inflict upon those who did not comply. Now, when it came around the time of the Baj, that was even more egregious, because if you paid attention to what the Baj, the vax, was supposed to do, it was never. It was always promoted as something that did not prevent you from getting the virus, but which would, if it worked, if it was effective, it would lessen your symptoms. So you could still get the virus, you could still pass on the virus to others, but the idea was you wouldn't get it as badly. But that still didn't affect, supposedly, its contagiousness, and it didn't affect you as a vector of contagion. But somehow they still tried to tell you that in order to protect others, you really needed to get this experimental jab of chemicals, whatever they are, whatever they were. You needed to get this plunged into your bloodstream, not for yourself, but to protect others. And they told you if you weren't doing that, if you weren't getting this injection and you were going around other people, you were putting their lives in danger. What? What? You just told me that it doesn't protect me from getting it. It doesn't protect me from spreading it. And now you want me to believe that me not getting it is somehow putting other lives in danger. How am I not putting other lives in danger by getting it? Because when I get it, I still can be a vector of contagion, right? This was never challenged that I know of. I never heard this objection raised, even though it's a very obvious logical fallacy. So logical fallacies are quite common, and we saw them going on with the last with this op, the virus op, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to wonder if the whole idea of it all isn't just to scramble your brain. There's a state called cognitive dissonance, which is where your brain is scrambled because you hear so many contradictory things, you can't make sense of them. And so ultimately, anything can mean anything, and you're more easily made malleable. You're more immune from logic, and you are more able to be mentally messed with. And that's what you have to look out as, I think, what I suspect anyway, is the end game with these kinds of logical fallacies. Logical fallacies lead to cognitive dissonance, and that's my observation with respect to this virus op and the logical fallacies. The obvious logical fallacies that we heard that were mouthed by people who were supposed to be academics, that were mouthed by people who were supposed to be so much more intelligent than we normal folk, that were mouthed by our leaders and those who cared for us and those who were there to protect us. It all should help to convince you that this whole thing was a total scam from beginning to end in every single way imaginable.